The Tennessee Titans had a disastrous end to a season where they honestly exceeded expectations after battling numerous injuries to guys like Derrick Henry and Caleb Farley, for example. And over the course of the 21-22 NFL season, the Titans fielded 91 different players, which was an NFL record, and as a matter of fact, they broke the record in Week 12. So, with everything the Titans have done over this offseason, how likely is it that they have a similar season and could potentially be a sleeper team to come out of the AFC? Well, before I continue, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for NFL content weekly, and I would also appreciate it if you like the video. It only takes 1 second, and simply liking the video helps the video perform in YouTube's algorithm. Like I already stated, the Titans faced numerous injuries throughout last season, with some of their most important players missing a decent amount of time, and regardless of that, they managed to stay afloat and even end up with the best record in the AFC, as hard as it is to believe. Unfortunately, their season ended in disappointing fashion in the playoffs, with the defense playing their ass off, sacking Joe Burrow 9 times, and although you can debate whether or not sacks are an overrated stat, but you got to take into account when Joe wasn't under pressure, he cooked the Titans going 25 of 31 for 325 yards. The Titans definitely remained competitive, but we all know how the game ended. Ryan Tannehill getting picked off on a drive to potentially win the game, which led the Bengals ending it on a game-winning field goal. To call last year a disappointing season definitely is fair, but considering what the team dealt with all the injuries, they were never supposed to be in the position that they were come playoff time. The team had one player voted to the Pro Bowl in Kevin Byard, whom also was first-team All-Pro, but eventually 3 more got added as alternates in Roger Saffold, Jeffrey Simmons, and Harold Landry. To cap off the season, Mike Vrabel won Coach of the Year, and there honestly was no better candidate with the way he led this team through all the adversity and made them look like they had a chance to win it all. This offseason, the Titans have lost many key pieces that made their team successful in recent memory, losing guys like Pro Bowl guard Roger Saffold, Anthony Ferguson, and Rashaan Evans via free agency. They released Julio Jones and also traded away A.J. Brown during the draft. However, they acquired Robert Woods in a trade with the Rams just for a 6th, which if you ask me is a massive steal, and someone that's a great wide receiver too and can even be your number 1, that's very versatile and can do a bit of everything. He's a great route runner between the numbers. He excelled in pre-snap things like motions, misdirections, and with his blocking, and his leadership, which obviously he was extremely loved in LA. And along with bringing in Woods, they also signed Austin Hooper while re-signing key guys in Ben Jones and Harold Landry. During the draft, like previously stated, they traded away A.J. Brown in a big-time shock of a trade to the Eagles, and they drafted their replacement for him in Treylon Burks. And although he didn't have an amazing combine like everybody expected him to have, Treylon is a big-body, versatile playmaker that almost every team would want on their team. Although he's not a super polished route runner, he might never be technical, but the fact that he's got the size, the hands, he can play inside and out, and most importantly, he proved he can produce as he did in the SEC. And if you can do that, it shows he has undeniable talent regardless of his technique or quickness. And along with drafting Burks, the Titans also picked up Roger McCreary. The Titans have been a team that's in need of depth at corner, and during his time at Auburn, he probably was one of the best players on their defense, and adding him to a secondary that features guys like Christian Fulton, Caleb Farley, Elijah Molden, Amani Hooker, and Kevin Byard, on paper, that definitely does sound like a pretty damn good secondary. And finally, probably the most interesting pick in the draft, with the 86th pick, the Titans selected Malik Willis. This probably is the best situation for both Malik and the Titans. It gives Malik no pressure at all for him to be potentially rushed into being a starter. Now, we know Tannehill is obviously the QB1 for the next season or 2, and while he's likely to be on his way out, this gives Malik plenty of time to grow as a player and develop. And out of any team, this is probably the best team for Malik to be a part of. And for them to take a flyer on Malik, whom has raw talent and so much upside, and with the right two-legend system, he could be a great quarterback, and I feel Tennessee is the perfect situation for that. To have him around Vrabel, and in the future if he takes over, to have him play alongside Derrick Henry, Treylon Burks, Bobby Trees, Westbrook Akine, and whatever weapons they put around him, it seems like he's in good hands. This roster on paper may be missing some key names, but like we saw last season through all the injuries, they had to plug in so many different guys, and I feel like the addition and subtraction of these names mentioned, it's going to be seamless, and this Titans team probably is going to mesh well and will likely do so pretty fast. And just looking over the depth chart, outside of losing AJ and Roger Saffold on offense, there isn't too much difference, and this year, knock on wood, they'll have Derrick Henry back for a full season, which we all know brings to the table probably the best in the league at what he does. And defensively, they still have that nasty front four with guys like Jeffrey Simmons and Bud Dupree, and still having key guys like Harold Landry, David Long, Zach Cunningham, Rashad Weaver, and that secondary I mentioned earlier. We saw in the playoffs that they had a Super Bowl caliber defense that was let down by an awful offense. But regardless of that one game, they probably are one of the more balanced teams, and with a healthy roster on both sides of the ball, they could do big things. So I honestly believe that the Titans could be a sleeper in the AFC. Although they traded away AJ Brown and lost a few pieces here and there on both sides of the ball, this team under Mike Vrabel, regardless of the situation and what they have, will always play hard and fight till the last second. And as we saw last season with a team that was battered by injuries that had no reason to be as good as they were, finishing with a 12-5 record and as a first seed, I'm pretty confident Coach Vrabel can bring the very best out of this Titans team just like we saw last season. Let me know what you think about this Titans team and how far they could potentially go. And always, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like on the video, as that's the best way to help the video with the algorithm. I appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.